no way. There's no more glass on the floor. There's no more glass from what I picked up to show her that the bulb was broken. The bulb is completely intact. It's there. It's turning on.
So once again, you found yourself at the campsite of the orator. Please pull up a chair. As you can see, the fire is stoked, which means I have another tale to tell. But before we begin, if you do find yourself enjoying this kind of content, first-hand accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then please like this video and then subscribe to my channel. Every single time I put out new content, you will get notified of that, and then it also helps me to produce new content and do this in the future, which I really love to do, and I'm excited to be able to continue to put out new content for you guys. Also, I really love talking to you guys and interacting with my audience. So comment below your favorite part of the video, maybe types of videos you'd like to see in the future. If you have an idea for a video, I would love to hear from you guys. Just comment below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Now, let's get into today's tale. It is a story I like to call Twinas. So our story takes place in the year of 2001 in a tiny village called Onikama, Michigan. Now, Onikama, it's in the lower peninsula of Michigan, but it's in the northwestern section of it, right on Lake Michigan. It is a tiny village, home to only about 400 people. So it's 2001. Kalli is about 16 years old, so she's actually going from 9th grade to 10th grade, and her mom, because of a job, has to move to Onikama, and so they are looking at houses. And so they find this beautiful, quaint little house. It's right on Lake Michigan, and they're going there to meet the realtor to see if it's the house for them. So they're on the main road in Onikama. They pull directly from the main road into the driveway of this house, and then the driveway sort of loops around to the back side of the house, and then there's sort of a parking area back there. The back side of the house butts up against a ton of trees. It's a nice forested area. And because it's so far removed from the road, there's actually a lamp post back there to kind of give some light to the back area. So they go into the back door, which is the main entrance to the house. And when you first enter the house, you enter the kitchen. So they come into the kitchen and they're sort of exploring the kitchen area, checking everything out, seeing if it's the right fit for them. The realtor is explaining all of the different commodities and what's going on in the kitchen, and they're sort of looking around. And one of the things the realtor points out is that, you know, if you're standing at the sink, you can look out that back window into the beautiful forested area. It's kind of a nice view. And so they all do that. They look out this window, they see the forested area there, all the beautiful trees, and hanging from one of the oak trees is something rather obvious that sticks out to all of them. Kalli knows immediately what it is. It is actually one of the stick figures from a recently popular movie. It's a movie called The Blair Witch Project. It came out in 1999, and it was a huge hit. Now, if you've never seen The Blair Witch Project, I'm going to sum up the plot a little bit just so you have a general idea of what this stick figure is and sort of its meaning, because it is sort of ominous and it has implications throughout the rest of the story. Now, the film follows three kids who are in college. They're creating a documentary about a local witch that was basically hanged. Her name was Ellie Kedwards. Back in the 1600s, just like in the Salem witch trials, she was tried and hanged for being a witch. And then, of course, the legend goes that she came back and she's been sort of haunting the town since then. And so they're going out to figure out the real story behind Ellie Kedwards and what happened, and also kind of see if anything creepy happens. So they end up going out into the woods. Obviously, it's a horror movie, so lots of scary things do happen. But one of the main components of the film is that every time that they camp and they wake up, there are these stick figures called Twinas that surround the entire campsite. And they basically are just a humanoid looking stick figure. The idea behind these stick figures is that they were sort of a channeling or focusing point for the witch to conduct her magic. So Kalli, her mom, and her sister, and then the realtor, they're all looking out the window and seeing this. Kalli kind of gives them an explanation. Hey, this is what this is. and they're all obviously immediately a little bit creeped out by it. Kalli says, I'll just walk out there, I'll take it down, and we really don't have to worry about it. And her mom immediately is like, no, do not touch that thing. I don't know what's going on, but no, you're going to leave it alone. So they finish looking at the kitchen area, and then they go through the rest of the house. They have kind of 3 different parallel rooms in the middle of the house. They have what ends up becoming her mother's room, and then in the middle of the house is the dining room, and on the right-hand side is Kalli's room. And then if you go all the way to actually what is the front of the house, where if you look out that side of the house, you would see the main road, and then beyond that, Lake Michigan. If you're in that room, it's actually a sunroom, and then there's this sort of separate little room that during the summers became her sister's bedroom, and then in the winters they kind of blocked it off because it was too difficult to heat that part of the house. And her sister during that time ended up staying with her mom in her bedroom. And then from that secondary bedroom, there was actually a door that opened, and then there were stairs that led down into the basement. They end up looking at all of the different components of the house, each of the bedrooms, the dining room, the sunroom. They're getting kind of a feel for that. They open up that door, so they head down the stairs, they turn to their left and open the door into the basement. Now, the first thing Kalli notices when they enter the basement is that they're in one big room. It is unfinished, so the floor is concrete, the walls are brick. There's no lighting down there when you first enter. In fact, when you walk down the stairs, there's no light there. You can't flip on a switch or anything like that. You just have the light from that bedroom to kind of guide you down the stairs. And then when you first open that room, the only light in that room is about 10 paces into the room. There's one light bulb with a pull chain. And so they walk in, they pull the chain, light floods the basement. Kalli notices that the floor of the basement is very dirty. And she suspected that it had at some point flooded, water had gotten into there and then sort of settled and dried up and left kind of a lot of sand. Now, there really wasn't much else to that room. It was one big square. It looked like maybe it was storage space. There were some cabinets and things like that. Otherwise, not much else to that room. Now, when you first enter the room, if you were to turn directly to your right, there's a second room. Now, there's a door frame to that room, but there's no door attached, so you're able to just freely enter that room. There is actually a second light with a pull chain there. So they go in, they turn that light on. Same thing. It's one tiny square room, just maybe for storage. There's really nothing else in there. And then there's one more room that is attached to that room. So if you were to enter that second room and turn directly to your left, there's a third room there. Now, this third room was the exact same thing as the other two. One square, empty, a little bit dirty. Nothing special about that. What was special, however, about this third room was the entrance to it. Now, there was a door frame, but there was also a door. It was very thick, very solid, and ornate. It was thick oak, and it really didn't look like it belonged in this basement. Kalli remembers looking at the door and thinking, this thing is beautiful. It's really old. It's really ornate. It has a lot of different work and carvings into it. And they look into this room, and it is just an empty room. Nothing special about it whatsoever. Kalli remembers feeling pretty uncomfortable at this point. There's the stick figure outside that kind of made her uncomfortable. This door, for some reason, just kind of gave her a bad, ominous feeling. But ultimately, the house is not her decision. It's her mom's decision. And so they leave that room. They're kind of looking at all the different components of the house, deciding if this is what they want. And then they get back into the kitchen area. They look out the window, and suddenly that Twinas, that stick man, is gone. Now, from the time they entered the house and looked at everything, gone down into the basement, checked everything out, come back upstairs and gotten back to the kitchen, was about 5 minutes. So somewhere in that 5-minute period, the stick man went from being right there outside the window to not being there anymore. And Kalli remembers that her mom was really upset. She was yelling at Kalli saying, I told you to leave that thing alone. Why did you go out there and touch it? And Calli's like, Mom, I was with you the whole time. We were literally looking at the house together. When would I have had a chance to go out there and take that thing down? It wasn't me. And so she's like, you better go out there and find it right now, because her mom is really upset. She's also getting kind of a bad feeling about things. And so Kalli does. She goes outside. She goes to where she found it in the trees out there, and she's looking all around, And no matter how hard she searches, she cannot find this thing. It's just gone. And so she goes back inside, and they think, maybe it was just some kids pulling a prank, even though that's really weird timing that they would know that we were going to be here and we're waiting. Whatever the case is, definitely strange. Ultimately, though, they do decide that this is the house for them, and so they move in. They have their moving truck there. They're slowly pulling things out and kind of positioning it where they want to in the new house. And then the sun starts to go down, and they come inside, and there's a little switch to flip to turn that back light on. Remember, you come in that back door. It's really kind of dark back there. You don't get the lights from the main road, and so they have their own individual lights. They flip on that light, and unfortunately, the light does not come on. It appears as though it doesn't work. They end up stopping for the night. It's getting a little bit too dark to be able to see, and things are a little bit dangerous if they don't want to trip and drop something heavy or something like that. And so they end up calling it a night, and they get started the next day. Her mom calls the electricians the next day and says, listen, the backside of this house is completely dark. This is 2001, so it's before people just had lights attached to their cell phones and things like that. So her mom wanted to make sure that they definitely had some lighting back there, so when she got home late at night, she didn't trip over anything, and if she wanted to unlock the door and get inside, it was really easy for her. So she calls the electricians. They come out and take a look at it. They say there's nothing wrong with the wiring. We're really not sure why this thing isn't turning on, and we can't really figure it out. And she actually goes to the length of calling 3 electricians in total, and all 3 of them say the same thing. There's nothing wrong with the lighting, and so they're very frustrated with this. About a week goes by, and they're still sort of in the process of moving things in. Now, Kalli's mom, she works at night, and so it is now later in the evening. Her mom is just getting ready to leave for work, and her sister is actually gone at a friend's house. So Kalli is now left alone at night at the house. Kalli is actually left to do some chores. Her mom sort of gave her a checklist of things to do, just basic stuff, clean up stuff, make sure everything's sort of in the right place. And one of the main components of her chores was that there were 4 boxes on the dining room table, and Kalli was supposed to take those boxes down into the basement and just kind of put them in storage down there. Kalli's doing some of her other chores. It's getting a little bit late. The sun is starting to go down, and she's like, I better take care of the boxes right now because it's really dark down there and there's no light until you get to that light switch and turn it on, other than the light that kind of filters in through those really thick windows, and it's very difficult to see. And so she grabs the boxes, she pulls them into the sunroom, and then she goes through that bedroom, down the stairs, and she already had an ominous feeling about the basement, and now it's getting dark, but she remembers that she calmed herself physically. Before she walked down, she said, you're not going to freak out and run around. Just walk down there. There's nothing down there. Don't be crazy about this, right? And so she opens the main basement door, and she remembers it's 10 paces to this light. And so she slowly walks the 10 paces across the basement. She reaches up. She finds the little pull chain. She gives it a yank. Nothing happens. Completely dark. She gives it a couple more pulls just in case. Still nothing. And so she slowly reaches her hand up to feel around and see exactly what's going on. And there's no bulb in this light. She's like, well, that's weird. There was definitely a bulb when we first moved in. And so she goes to turn around to leave the basement because there's no light down here. And her foot crunches onto something. And so there's a little bit of light filtering in, so she can kind of see. She gets down on her hands and knees and she's looking, and she finds these large pieces of glass. Clearly the bulb had bursted at some point and rained glass down onto the floor. And so she doesn't pick it all up. She doesn't have like a broom or anything like that, but she does get a couple of the bigger pieces of the light bulb. She puts them in her hand, and she ends up leaving the basement, going back upstairs, takes a look once she's in better light. Yep, this is definitely the light bulb. She deposits the light bulb glass into the trash, and then she goes searching for a new light bulb. She looks around for quite a while, can't find one, and decides, you know what? This is something I can easily take care of in the morning. I'm not going to try to take these boxes downstairs, trip on the way downstairs with no light. And she's not feeling very comfortable about the basement. Easy to just put off till the next morning. So she does the rest of her chores. Her mom gets home, and right away her mom looks in the sunroom, notices these 4 boxes sitting there, and Kalli says, listen, I know I'm going to take them down in the morning. It's just the light bulb was broken, and I didn't want to fumble around in the dark. Now, her mom had a really bad shift at work. She was not in a great mood, and so she's pretty upset that the one main task she had given Kalli, she didn't really do. And so she grabs the boxes all aggressively. She marches them downstairs. She throws one of the boxes down on the ground, and then she pulls on the chain for the light, and light floods the basement. And Kalli's looking at this light bulb like, there was no light bulb here, and there was glass all over the floor. So she looks down at the floor, and there's no light bulb glass at all anywhere on the floor. It's still dirty, but there's clearly no glass on there. And so she's trying to explain, Mom, I was going to do it. That's why they were in the sunroom. I was one step away from bringing them down, but the light just, it was broken. She's like, it's fine. I'll show you the glass in the trash can. I threw the glass away. So they head back upstairs. They go to the trash can. She opens it up. They're looking around in there. It's pretty empty, and yet there's no light bulb glass anywhere. And she's like, Mom, I threw it away. I just couldn't find a new light bulb. I'm the only one here. Clearly no one replaced it. I don't have an explanation for this. And her mom's just thinking, I have an explanation. You were being lazy and you didn't do your chores, and you're coming up with some nonsensical story for it. But Kalli, she had already had an ominous feeling about the house from the very beginning, especially the basement. And now with this incident, and she's like, she doesn't have any kind of explanation for it. She just decides, you know what, from now on, I'm just never going in the basement again if it's dark. I'll go there if it's light and I can definitely see down there. Otherwise, there's something going on in this basement. It feels very ominous. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to touch it. And so a couple months go by and nothing else really happens. This light incident is a big problem. Every night her mom gets home, she's very frustrated with the fact that it's completely dark in the back of the house. Nobody can seem to fix this lamp. And then one random night, her mom comes home, pulls into the driveway, goes to the back, parks, and all of a sudden she realizes the light is on. Now here's what's particularly strange about this. Back when they had tried and failed to get this light to work, when the electricians had come out and stuff like that, they had actually removed the light bulb from that lamppost. They're like, there's no point in trying to put a light bulb in there. It doesn't work. And so they had removed the light bulb. And now all of a sudden, not only was there a light bulb in it, but the light was working. And so her mom immediately is able to go inside. She's pretty excited about this because clearly the landlord had fixed whatever was going on with the light. And so she was pretty excited about it. Finally, she could get into the house without having to fumble with her keys. So she goes inside. She's like, Kalli, that's so cool that they fixed the light. And Kalli's like, they fixed the light? I didn't know that. She's like, you've been home all day. You didn't notice someone coming out and fixing it? She's like, literally, no. They didn't tell me anything. I have no idea. So the next morning, her mom calls the landlord and says, hey, thank you so much for fixing the lamp. It's been a huge problem, very frustrating. And the landlord says, I don't know what you're talking about. That lamp has not worked in forever. I didn't fix it. I have no idea what you're talking about. Kalli's mom, she had been a little uneasy about seeing the stick figure out front. And then Kalli's story about the lamp breaking was a little bit weird to her. But for some reason, the light bulb being replaced and that light suddenly turning on without any kind of explanation, that was sort of the thing that pushed her into that zone of feeling like there is definitely something going on at this house. Something is uncomfortable. I don't really like the feeling of what's going on here. And so now everybody in the house is a little bit on edge, but nothing ends up happening for a little while. And then one day, Kalli has to take something down into the basement. But she doesn't have to take it into that main room. She has to actually enter all the way into that third room, the room with the giant ornate oak door. And so she goes down the stairs. She's got this box. She sets it down at the base of the basement. She goes across the 10 paces. She flips on the light bulb. Totally fine. Light enters the room. She picks up the box. She goes into that second room. She pulls the chain on that second light. Light emits from the light bulb. No problem there. And then she sets the box down. She turns to open this giant ornate wooden door. And she's pulling on it and nothing's happening. And so she starts sort of examining the door, saying, where could this thing be stuck? And she ends up, her eyes go to the very bottom left-hand side of this door. And it looked as though an animal had attacked this door. It had been completely ripped up. There were layers that were peeled away from the door. There were deep scratch marks, claw marks rended into the wood. And remember, this is not some cheap door that you could just sort of kick down or anything like that. This is an old, ornate door. It really doesn't even make sense that it's in this basement. And this thing looks like it had been completely ravaged. And this just terrified Kalli. She's like, this makes literally no sense. What could have possibly done this? It looked like a bear attack or something like that. So she immediately leaves. She goes upstairs. She finds her mom. She says, Mom, I don't even understand how to explain this, but that big wooden door down in the basement, it is completely destroyed. It looked like an animal went crazy on this thing from the outside. And so her mom rushes down with her. They get down there. They go into the main room. They enter that second room. They look at the door. She's like, look, it's right there. And suddenly the door is completely fine. Literally no marring on it whatsoever, no scratches, nothing ripped up. It is completely repaired in the last maybe 30 seconds. And so Kalli's like, Mom, I am not making this up. I couldn't even open the door. It was so badly damaged, it was literally stuck and I couldn't open it. So her mom opens the door. They both get a really, really ominous, terrible feeling. And so she shuts the door right away. And she immediately believes Kalli at this point. She's like, yeah, something is going on in this house. I have no clue what it is, but it's clearly uncomfortable. And so they end up going upstairs. And right there, they call their landlord. They end up getting out of their lease. And they end up moving away from that house. And Kalli's mom ended up finding a new job. So that's going to wrap up today's tale. Again, if you find this kind of content interesting, first-hand accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, like this video and then subscribe to my channel. You're going to get notifications every single time I put out a new video. But also it helps me to grow my channel and continue to put out new content, which I absolutely love to do. Also, please comment below. What was your favorite part of today's story? Are there stories you'd like to see in the future, different kinds of content? Do you have any questions for me maybe? I will get back to you as soon as I can. I can't wait to interact with you guys there. And so I will see you guys next time. Please pull up a chair. The fire will be stoked, and I will have another tale to tell.